Welcome everyone to another episode of the Your Little Castle Show. It is my honor to work with, with small business owners. They're the lifeblood of the community and in our country, I really believe. If you really add that up in terms of what percentage of the businesses out there, everybody thinks big corporations are like 90%, not even close. It's like they're like 10%. The small businesses support the big corporations. And so we like to highlight those leaders. So this particular episode, I got to know Jessica a little bit, and we talked about business is tough. That's for sure. Would you agree with that, Jessica?
Agreed.
And the fail rate on most businesses is like 80%.
Lots of challenges.
There's lots of things to overcome and things that you have to figure out and sort out. And so when we start getting into that kind of a discussion, when we initially were introduced to you, Manny's in the studio today, introduced us, and Manny and I are working together on a lot of stuff now. But the truth is, as I switch over to our other camera, there you go. The truth is, it is difficult. And so many times when you're not the owner, you're working for someone, there are things you have to learn about the business, and you really become invested in the company, if you will. And
Yes.
sometimes you're chipping in, like buying lunch and doing whatever, and sometimes
Yes.
whatever goes on from there. Then the hurdles come about and you say, hey, we got to figure this thing out. So when I heard about how you really came up with a solution for a problem with a company that was, like a lot of companies, going through hurdles, going through struggles, through things that they had to overcome to stay in business, like 80% of the time it doesn't work out. It's the 20% that do. And so that's a high ratio of failure. But you saw an opportunity to help and jumped in, and we're just excited to have you on the show to kind of talk about that and the success that you've developed from that.
Well, thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Well, everybody, it's Jessica Schleicher.
Schleicher.
Did I said it right?
Yes, you got it.
I should be able to say that correctly because I have a German heritage last name. Is that a German heritage?
German, yes.
Heritage, and so I'm American. My heritage was from Germany, but we talk about the people that have been leaders in our community. So we're going to do that. But first, we're going to share with everybody behind us quickly, Carroll House Furniture, because you like nice things in your little castle, which is the title of our show, right? And so with that, we like to give a shout out to those guys. So I'm going to flip over here, and we produce this show live in the studio while we're here. And so there's a little bit about Carroll House and a little bit on the other wall about Carroll House. Our other big sponsor, USA Mortgage. And if this all would not happen without the sponsors that we have that help, they want to benefit from what we offer, and we want to help them be highlighted. But I'm a licensed loan officer. You can see the information on the screen, and it shows up at the end of the show for our NMLS information, because we have to share that with everyone as soon as we mention anything about an association. And I'm actually employed by USA Mortgage as part of what I do. So we want to help the community, and we're going to do that by sharing the excitement that comes from the leaders who are all over the country, but mostly in the Midwest here. We've interviewed people from LA and New York and Chicago and St. Louis, where most of our guests come from, because that's where we're based. But take a look here. Service Central Glass and Door. We've got your Facebook page up on the wall over here, and then your website. Great looking website. I love this website because it looks cool. You're a glass company, so these TVs, ladies and gentlemen, this isn't a glass window behind me. This is a series of televisions. This is called a TV wall. And when you've got the little, we put this together, there's 9 of them. They look like windows, and like with glass behind it, it looks like we're sitting at the 15th floor of a big building somewhere when you've got great looking windows. So congratulations, great job.
Thank you.
And let's talk a little bit about, like I found was most interesting about what you talked about was how you took the opportunity with something where you saw there was a definite need to help make things go better and turn it into something, and now you have your own company that you've run now for 3 years. Tell me about how that got started and why you decided to do that.
Well, at the time, I was working for another glass company based here in St. Louis, and I was an employee and running a portion of their business. And unfortunately, they went out of business, but obviously there was some time for that to take place. And I saw an opportunity to create my own business. I had kind of a small investment to help out with the company I was working for. And unfortunately, since they were kind of going out of business, I had the opportunity to sort of purchase my book of business.
Okay, well, that's a interesting strategy to get involved with a company, because
It was interesting, yes.
I mean, how many people say I can essentially buy into the business kind of thing, and then own the book of business that you were probably working on, right?
Yes.
I understand that most
Yes,
people.
lots of work.
In our pregame prep, we talked about how effectively you talked about the book of business, and that's really why a lot of people, us salespeople, I've been a technical person who just sat behind a desk in a cubicle for many years at a little brewery based in St. Louis for most of that time, a little bit for Citicorp, a little bit 10 years at Anheuser-Busch. And then I decided to get out back into the sales world. I was selling computers while I was going to grad school for Circuit City, which actually paid pretty nicely if you knew how to sell these things that were $2,000 or $3,000.
I bet it did.
But I learned that when you develop relationships, essentially when they hire a salesperson, they're looking for that salesperson to bring in their contacts and the people that they know and the relationships they developed. And so somebody like yourself who's worked hard, worked on that as an employee, now developed that and said, hey, let's take this thing over and make this thing bigger. I think I can do this.
Yeah,
tell me about that.
The transfer of it was sort of easy because I was the face of that company for my customers at that time. So they were actually kind of excited for me to have my own company, and they really work with me and the people that worked in that area. So it wasn't just me, obviously. There was a staff that was dedicated to the portion of that business that I was managing. So we all basically moved over to the new company, or my new company, Service Central Glass and Door. So a lot of the customers were very excited for the opportunity.
Well, and again, putting the time and energy and effort into something like that is what makes the world go round, if you ask me.
Yes.
And most people understand that the tax revenue generated, the jobs that are created, all come from small businesses. So that's why we always want to highlight the small businesses, because they're the ones making it really happen. The other benefit a lot of people do realize that comes from small businesses, they're the innovators, right? The big corporations find the innovators and then buy them, right?
Yes.
Just ask Google. I think they buy like 17 companies a day, or something like that. And it's really because where they're out there being creative and doing something new, they not have all the resources that a big company has. They say, hey, that's a real neat product. That's a neat service that people need. Mm-hmm. We're going to buy them. So you effectively said, let's keep it going from small business to small business. You guys need some help. I see an opportunity. Instead of us going up and selling some big company, let's keep our thing here going. And now you've done it for 3 years.
Yes.
Tell me about some of the success and how that's been so exciting for you. And we got into some interesting discussion. Now it's almost like, what were we talking about? But it was deep stuff about how you make it happen in the current culture and the world, mm-hmm. the way the world is, and all the hurdles that have to come over. And that's just I feel like, oh, it's the most difficult time in the history of the world to start a business because of whatever. I'm like, no, when there was like people running around with axes and in the medieval times, that was the worst time to live on this. They just killed you if they didn't
Very
like
volatile.
you, right? Here it's a little more difficult. They don't. I made a joke with my dad years ago. These days they don't just kill people; they just make it difficult on you,
yes.
right? And that's because it's competition, and the competition forces people to do better. And so other places in the world, and historically, I'm getting kind of weird with our conversation here, but it was a much more difficult, dark world. A lot of people. So it's actually pretty good. That's what I'm trying to paint the picture of.
Yes.
And so it gives an opportunity for someone like yourself to turn around and do something like this. Tell me more about the path that led you here and why you're doing this thing and why you think you've made it a success.
Well, like I said, I was working for a glass company, so naturally, and I was working there, I don't know, it was maybe 5 years or so at the time when Service Central was generated. And so naturally, I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to just stick with glass business because my customer base is accustomed to us doing glass work for them, aluminum frames, hardware, sealant work, things like that. So, and then the people that I worked with in my department, per se, were essentially losing their jobs. So I already knew the skill level. I knew the people very personally because we were a small group. So naturally, I'm like, well, why don't you just come work for me? And so I started building from there because I had a lot of insight on, the inner workings, and could basically assemble a staff just from the people that were losing their jobs. And it really came together beautifully.
Well, and that's where it does take some creativity. People think about business as a matter of it's just straight up. This is how you do it, get it done, and this is the way it's always been done. And that's kind of what I think causes most businesses to fail, because
Agreed.
they're just like, this is how you do it. I mean, I guess. Wow, here's another tangent to our discussion. If you agree with me here, the guys and gals who've run businesses in the past, they're very good at what they do. I'll say it like this to add to that. One of my best friends owns a roofing company. He says, Carter, we're no longer roofing companies. We are marketing companies who sell roofs.
Yes.
Because it used to be, and the first time we've had this discussion on this show, this specific to this, that it used to be Yellow Pages or all the big companies. And that was kind of what separated everybody. Yellow Pages did this thing in the Yellow Pages, and if you were in the
word of
Yellow
mouth.
Pages, word of mouth, Yellow Pages, a couple little things, you go to charity events, etc. Now it's smaller businesses have the opportunity to do mass media, if you will, like this new thing called Facebook,
Yes.
Google,
Instagram.
go down the list, Twitter,
LinkedIn.
there you go. And so now you have the obligation, or else you get beat out by the guys who are the smaller businesses who are doing this.
Right.
It's the whole existence for this show, by the way, 'cause we want to highlight these leaders. We say, hey, your interview went great. Here's a copy of it. Go put it out there. Share it with people. Some people will watch it when it airs on ABC, but a lot of people are going to watch it later on your website or your social media. And that's what we really want to highlight. So when we reached out to you, I said, Manny, I love what you're doing in the community. Who do you know as some leaders in the community? So you're the first one he brought up.
Oh, well, thank you, Manny.
And that's kind of neat for what we're trying to accomplish here. Tell me a little bit about your history. What are some of the hobbies? And we go off to the background a little bit so people understand a little bit more about why you got into this. How did this lead to it? Or was it just some random thing that fell in your lap? But what do you enjoy? And we talked about you ride horses too. That's kind of
I do. I wish I could ride more. Again, it's it's a time thing. First is business and take care of that, and then I guess a hobby of mine. I have a lot of animals. I love animals.
Okay.
Love them. Really, any animal.
If it's furry or something that people can take care of.
But you have to take care of these animals.
Right. Yeah.
They have to have a proper place to live, a proper place to eat, proper feed, hygiene, just all over health-wise. So I guess in a way that's a hobby, but I enjoy it. They make me happy. So, and I have some property and a house. I live near my parents, which were about an hour west of St. Louis. And so I have property to take care of also, which that gives me space for animals.
Right.
And so sometimes I have to be like, no, you don't need more chickens. No, you don't need more goats.
You have chickens.
I have chickens. I have like 30 chickens, 7 goats, 3 horses, a mini mule, 3 cats, and 7 dogs.
Ladies and
I
gentlemen,
think that's it.
you're also a farmer, it sounds like, as well.
Well, they're not really like income producing, they're pets.
They're pets. It's like 70 pets. I mean, when you add it all together.
I know.
How many chickens did you say?
30.
Are chickens kind of interactive too?
Yes.
You get to. They're not just these crazy birds.
No, when I
make a
come
lot of-
out to collect the eggs or feed them, they come running out to greet me.
They say, "Here comes the food,
Here
everybody."
comes the food lady.
Well, they say there's Pavlov, I think it was, that had his study of dogs. Essentially, it's like you could control the
Food.
animal based on food.
Food,
right?
yes. Now, a lot of my employees and friends love the eggs, though.
I would say so.
Apparently, they're a hot commodity here lately.
Right. The price of eggs has gone up 700% or something like that.
Right.
But so yeah, I mean, you do benefit from this a little bit to have your own. If there was a
Yes.
craziness in our world and somebody had to say, "Who can get us some eggs?" You've got them right there at your.
Yeah.
at your
They're.
residence.
I don't really have them for the eggs. I mean, the eggs are a great benefit from having the chickens. However, they are very high tick consumers, and when you live not in in kind of a wooded or even just grassy area, I had a lot of ticks when I moved there. So I'm like, I'll just get some chickens and they'll take care of the ticks. Sure enough, they do.
Wow, ladies and gentlemen, I'd never heard that side benefit. We're getting into an interesting discussion. We're going to talk a lot more exciting stuff about business here in a minute. But you learn a little bit from everybody, just in
Right.
general discussion. And the reason that one hit me a little bit is I have a couple very high profile friends that I'm not that good. I mean, but people that I was working in the organization, and so became friends with them. And like they got bit by a tick and got
You can get very sick.
Lyme disease, and that is a horrible thing to go through because it
Yes.
can be debilitating. Like you
Yes.
can't function, you can't hardly, you're alive, but you can't see. Okay, I don't know all the details, but I
Yes.
remember they used to talk about how our leader, who I won't name, like he's gonna wear sunglasses during the interview or the Zoom call or whatever we were doing here, and it's like that's kind of stuff. So anyway, side benefit of chickens, everybody. All right, so I guess I'd throw that back in throw it back into the business discussion, which I'm trying to do here. Right, is you're always looking for some way to benefit, to improve, to do better, and you found an easy solution for an issue that you had, and that's what business people do, right?
Yes.
They find solutions for problems, and that's what we
Yes.
talked about pregame a little bit too. Business owners are essentially responsible for fixing everything.
Yes. Problem solvers.
Problem solvers. Talk about that if you would for a minute.
Well, yeah, I spend a lot of my time problem solving, and it could be really anything. But being a business owner, in my mind, I am ultimately responsible. So no matter what issue comes up, problem, whatnot, I feel that I'm responsible to help develop a solution. Now, whether I come up with a solution or I find someone to help us find the solution, I feel like it's my responsibility. I can't place that on someone else ultimately. And that's just kind of how I view problem solving. And it's being resourceful as well. Going to, whether it be vendors, employees, people in the business, whomever, just asking for an opinion or asking for help or an experience, or has this ever happened to you? Have you ever come across this before? And just being brave enough to ask the question and to be upfront.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're looking for what it is that separates what's weird about us business owners, I'm a business owner again myself here, and it's just you are willing to take on the challenge to do anything and to bust through walls. I'll never forget, I had a company I was working with had me take some kind of a psychological test. And I hadn't done that since I worked at Anheuser-Busch, and I'd done this before. I'm like, I'll do whatever, man.
So what was the outcome?
And they said, how quickly can we sign you up? Because you will run through brick walls, according to our psychological
Yes.
analysis. and I don't think that's anything, I don't know, it's almost a hurdle to overcome, because people know that you're the guy that will get things done no matter what. And then a lot of people, there's the 80-20 rule. Have you heard about the 80-20 rule?
What is
The
it?
Pareto rule. It's essentially 80% of the world kind of just does the work, and kind of, you tell them what to do and they get it done. 20% is the one who get it done, and they organize and they put things together. So that's the Pareto rule. It's actually very specific to that. It's a ratio of a pi r squared thing or whatever, but it breaks down to essentially 80-20. And there's 80% of the people that they're not programmed that way. And God made it that
Or
way.
they just don't want to, and that's okay.
Yeah,
because
tell me what
not
they'd like to
everybody
manage.
can be a leader. Yes.
Tell me about that.
Agreed. I feel that I recognize the personality traits and different, I don't want to say like skill level, but maybe like quality of skills, or just a set of skills in a person, like what they're good at, what they're not good at, and just recognizing that in my employees and knowing where they are going to do their best. Because a lot of it too is just positive reinforcement, making people feel good about themselves, allowing people to, enjoy what they do. And I feel like a lot of that comes along with placing them somewhere, or in, what they're doing, that they enjoy it or that they're good at, because naturally they'll like it if they're very good at it. Or placing people together, pairing them. Personalities have a lot to do with the success of anything. And for me, it's just the success of a job. So when a certain job comes up, whatever scope it might be, I'm like, oh, who do we have available, first off? And then secondly, who would be good at it, knowing that they really enjoy doing XYZ. And then if they need it, if we have to have 2 people on it, and then you pair the people according to how they work well together. And my staff, they all work together really well, but there are, pairs and scopes of work that this group might do really, really good together. And what it does is it creates success in the project, which is success for the customer and their project. And then all around, it's just a more positive experience.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is why we do the show, so that we can share some of the in-depth tips. I haven't anybody go that deep on that particular topic for sure. I don't want to say all the rest of my guests didn't know what they were doing. They didn't talk about that. No, we've talked about all kinds of other things, and just every guest brings some kind of insightful perspective to share about how you personalities. Man, we hadn't got into
personalities,
and that can be a major conflict. I know that was interesting, and I won't say the name of the gal. I'll never forget though. They happened to pick that. All of us took this. This psychological test that they've done for many years. I forget the name of it, but effectively they said, now we're going to bring up to the front of the room as we went to a training out at Soccer Park, because Anheuser-Busch owns Soccer Park. I think that's where we were at. And they said, and this is a separate company, so I don't blame Anheuser-Busch. And it's whatever. It's just, we're just learning, and and it's good to know these things. I'm saying Anheuser-Busch is on the ball because of the same things you're talking about. And they said, here's somebody who is this type of personality, and they picked me. And here's somebody who is the opposite. And they put us up at the front of the room and said, now you guys have a discussion here.
Yeah, see what comes about with this.
And I won't even get any more specific than that. But there was later things happened, and that person ended up not being with the company because of a bad decision, I found out. It was kind of sad. And it's just like, wow, I wonder if that was something that came out of the personality. And it really stemmed from another issue where somebody was like, why did they get to do this and I didn't, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I was like, holy cow, the personality. And I don't blame, I felt kind of sad. I'm like, that person was a great person, but there was some trait, and where did that trait come about? And was that relative to this? I mean, I don't know, but it led to something else. They can identify these kinds of things, is just what I'm saying. And so who it is works well best with each other, and that's what you've got to identify. I don't hear business owners talk about that at all.
I mean, can imagine
how important
imagine you and that person being put together, working shoulder to shoulder, and being a team, and you're installing heavy things, and you're coming across problems, and just different things that you have to work through, and trying to bring that together. That's not necessarily setting up for success. So I try to set up projects for success, and every little thing matters.
And back to
the big thing are the people.
And that's why I put the cowboy hat on everybody. Now we're talking about the community-based stuff that really affects people's lives and allows for the success of other people, not just because you gave them a job, but you're looking out for their career and the best benefit for them long term.
Yes.
And that benefits you ultimately. And it's that theory. Tell me if you agree with the theory, is if when you take care of other people, then good things happen for you. Right. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. I'm going to share on the wall here. We're almost done with the first half hour, everybody. We do this show in segments, effectively saying, hey, we're going to talk about whatever we can get through with regard to the main part of the business and why you do this and what sets you apart and how you do things and run things. And then the second half, as we talk with Jessica, we talk about all the in-depth stuff. So if you're only seeing the first half of the show, do check out the full recording, because we're going to just keep rolling here in a minute, and you'll just see me cut, and I'll edit the end of it and put it back to the 28-minute, 30-second mark, and then send it off to ABC. But the whole show has a lot more information on it. And with as much knowledge as Jessica has here, we might talk for 4 or 5 hours. I mean, depends. I do have another meeting, so does she, I think. But thank you so much for taking the time. Let's show. I put up on the wall. We're going to browse through your website just a bit, if that's all right with you, because we talked about doing that. And so here it is up on the wall. Tell me about some of the important parts of your website that you definitely want people to take a look at. And I know we looked at your services. Is that where
I would say the most important part is obviously our services. We have our main bulk of business, our commercial services, but we also do residential work, and we call it fabrication services, where we can fabricate pieces of glass in-house, like glass tabletops, shelves, mirrors, things of that sort. We can actually fabricate in our shop for customers.
Okay, so that was the commercial page. I'm going to pull up that fabrication page as you mentioned it there. That's commercial. Here's fabrication. And that's a pretty cool service to offer, because how many people have we were joking here. I'll share with you guys a little bit. I hit my rings on the glass, and I'm like, man, I don't want to break this. Brooke Dubman might have to buy another table over there. But she's like, I can fix that.
I can fix that for you.
But that's a lot cheaper than buying a $1,400 table if you just got to replace it.
Like one piece of glass, it might be less than the table. Sometimes it can be more expensive than the table, but it just depends. We'd have to cost it for you.
Right. And just do an analysis, give us the information,
Yes.
and then let us make a decision. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff you get to. And here's the residential stuff, and you do that as well.
Yes. Now, back to the point of people. I can have all the equipment, I can have all the materials, but when it comes to fabrication, you have to have the people that know what to do.
Skills.
Their skills.
Yeah. Okay.
And all of my staff, or my field crew, fabrication crew, are highly skilled. And it's amazing what they can do. It really is.
That's important. I want to touch on something that led to that, because behind you have on the other wall, I'm going to put that up for everybody. We put up your BBB. You're A+ rated. That's important for people to understand. So good job doing that. They don't just hand that out. I know a little bit about how that works, and to be A+ rated on the BBB is important. Also wanted to give everybody a quick glance, and if somebody noticed, I was poking around on your Facebook page behind you right there, but you got some good content out there, so you do have a Facebook presence too, and people can find you and get through to you there as well. And it's just good to know that you have all the social media that is necessary. I'm clicking on my screen over there. That's the wrong screen. I got multiple screens, right? And good information that people can find you all along the way. And then I'll throw up on the page here real quick. You are on LinkedIn, and so somebody wants to find you on LinkedIn here. I've got some messages popping up there. You can read them if you want to. But get a hold of Jessica on LinkedIn. A lot of followers and people that are connected with you there follow you and what you do. So back with that. So as we continue on here, because we're about done with the first segment here, our 28-minute, 30-second mark is up in about 30 seconds. Tell me what we're going to talk about. We talked a little bit about your reviews there. You've got a lot of people that favor you, the Better Business Bureau. You're commercial based mostly for what you do.
Mostly commercial.
So
yes.
Not going to have as many of the residential type reviews, because that's not what you do as much of. But
we'll do residential showers, glass replacements in residential windows, gym, mirrors, wine rooms, things of that sort.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Those are great. It's great to have somebody in the glass business as I find out how much that goes for. All right, everybody, stay tuned. We're at that mark now where we're going to switch over to our full broadcast. Check it out. Watch us on our social media, if you will, and you can go to click on the links to those from our website, yourlittlecastle.com. All right, with that, we switch right over then and continue on here. What is the one thing that sets your business apart when you really have to get down to it, and you're looking at helping set yourself apart? What is it you do?
The first thing that comes to my mind is our service. And myself and my staff, employees, they strive to give the best service to customers. They always have the customer in mind. They're very professional, and just the willingness to help. Someone comes to us with, I just need a replacement piece of glass for my curio cabinet, up to I have this, car that just drove through our storefront, and we have to react right away.
Right.
Just yesterday, a customer from the America Center called. They had a broken piece of glass, and they needed us to come down very quickly and remove it and help them out with that. So our responsiveness and our service, we really strive for, and I feel like that sets us apart. And we ultimately really care about our customers and what they need. And that's what drives us.
Yeah, well, it's all boils down to what a lot of people would call reputation, right? And responsiveness is part of that. And so they say, who do we call? Because this isn't necessarily a decision about cost.
It's that thought in their mind, we have to call them. We have to call Service Central. Call Jessica, call Jenna, call Jimmy, call Curtis, call any of the other people that are on the staff there. I could go through all the names. Call Zach, call Stu. They touch on our customers, and they remember them call Paul, call Uncle Jim. That's what we have, too many Jims, so we call. So they come up with, they remember that relationship or that experience with whoever it was from Service Central Glass and helped them. They remember that. So that's what we strive for. We want that thought that's in our customer's mind.
Well, that's something we talk about from time to time, and I quote my father a lot of times, everybody. So we talked about this too. I'm going to mention this as I think about it. I will share personal stuff because, and my dad, so that's called emotional disclosure or whatever it was. And some people might say not necessary or not what you do as somebody who's running a business. Or I'm like, at the same time, I don't care. I want to get to know people. I want to share personal things that and I'm not putting anybody on the spot to say, I don't go back to what we talked about this, and then Jessica, your turn to share something personal. I don't do that, and I'm not asking for that. But my dad, one of the quotes my dad gave me was, it being cheap, and we've said this a few times on the show, but not everybody's seen every show, so I'll say it again. Cheap gets very expensive.
Yes.
And so most times it's like, especially I would assume when you're talking about glass, because there's probably multiple different grades, multiple different options, thicknesses, finish, installation. I mean, you really get into it. How long do you expect this piece of glass to be there? A couple weeks or a couple decades?
Hopefully decades.
Right. And I said the answer,
especially for the cost.
the answer is going to be decades for
Yes.
just about everybody. So you want to do
Yes.
it right is the point. And so when you're getting
Correct.
a call from the America Center, and they say that's like the Trans World Dome, the Edward Jones Dome,
time.
the
Yes.
big center where the Rams played, and now the Battlehawks play. They are not messing around. They want to go
Nope.
to somebody who does it right, and you get the call.
And sometimes they're on time constraints too, with the different events that they have going on, and just expectations of them of having their facility in working order. And so there are many times where they call us to help them, and we try to help them as best as possible. But we shoot you straight too. We don't want to sugarcoat anything or give you the wrong idea, like lead times and availability and cost and everything. We try to just be upfront about it so we don't surprise you with anything on the back end. Because that's another thing. Like, if we know offhand this piece of glass is going to be expensive, we try to say that from the beginning so we don't catch you off guard.
Well, and that tells me a little bit more about the next question I've got for you. And what is a big mistake that a lot of people make, especially when they're talking about commercial glass and residential, I guess, too? Is what's one of the biggest mistakes people make? And they're going, oh, yeah, I can just do this. And I can do it myself. I'm a do-it-yourselfer, right? And I'm going to put in my own glass. And I'm going to get it sealed correctly and everything else that goes into that. What's a mistake people make?
Well, this is kind of a funny that we found when we say, oh, this is going to be really fast and easy. Like just a simple install. Oh, this is just a simple install. It'll be fast and easy. You'll be out in like no time. Or you'll be out in like an hour. 5, 6 hours later, we're still struggling with something. So we've learned to never say, oh, this is going to be easy. Because running a glass company is definitely not easy. There's a lot of challenges. There's a lot of skill that goes into it. So I think maybe one mistake is if someone goes into it thinking it's going to be easy. I mean, some things will be easy, but you have to go into it knowing it's going to be a lot of work. It's going to be hard work, like dedication, and just every day getting up, getting out there, treating your people well, and just being available for your employees and your customers both, and just getting out there and doing it and knowing it's not going to be easy and accepting it. And just every day, just put as much effort into it as you can.
Well, and like they say, nothing in life that's worth anything
Comes easily.
it comes easily, right?
Or free.
Or free. Well, I love the. They said it's free. I'm like, I'm a marketing guy. Let me tell you what free is.
That's just to hook you.
That's called the hook, yeah, or the loss leader. That's the code word for a lot of people. What's a loss leader? That's where they know they're going to give you something that doesn't cost them too much to get you in the door, right? Mm-hmm. To get you into the system.
Yes.
That's a good strategy.
Get your attention.
Get your attention, bring it in, and now we've got you in here. now we hit you up with all the other fun things that we do because
Yes.
hopefully they enjoyed the thing that they got for a discount or a low cost or an entry level price. And that's how it's all about business makes the world go round. I don't care who you talk
does.
to. That's just the way it works. And so these are the strategies that have to be done. And the loss leader, here's something that's free. And well, it may be free to the person you gave it to, but it wasn't free to whoever was giving it away. They had to pay somebody to create that or do
That cost needs to be recouped somewhere.
And that's the method here, everybody, for those who don't understand why that's done. But that's kind of a straightforward. Another one we hadn't talked about. We're covering a lot of new ground here. This is our 60th show, by the way, everybody. So if we were doing one show a month, we would have 5 years of shows by now. But we do one show a week. So we're about a quarter of the way into our first full year with the new show here, the Yodel Castle. 5 years of the Cowboy and Judge show, and that all started with the Cardinal Cowboy show, all on ABC when they approached me to see if I wanted to have a show on ABC here in St. Louis. That's kind of fun.
Good for you.
We get to highlight. Yeah, I think it's fun for me because we get to highlight people like you because that's what we do with it ideally. Tell me a time when you really felt you helped a client. If you don't name anybody, of course, unless you know somebody that was like, oh yeah, they wouldn't care if we mentioned their name. But you're like, here was a tough situation, and somebody else left them in a whatever, or they just had a thing happen and somebody drove through a window. I mean, crazy.
We actually do have a lot of that, and
does that happen a lot?
yes,
Because you see it on the news like once every 3 years.
The buildings are set up, and then parking spaces are right at the storefront, and just
Somebody lets the car go out of here.
and answering phone calls, and it's not. Sometimes, a lot of times, it's not even intentional. You have it in drive instead of reverse, and you hit the gas, and boom, you're right there. You're like 3 feet from the building, so it doesn't take much.
I want to meet the guy that it was intentional. I mean,
well, there are some that are intentional.
Actually, that's the guy I don't want to meet.
You don't want to meet that.
But somebody's mad, and they go. But sometimes you've seen it at particular.
People mad, unfortunately, people trying to get in when they're not supposed to.
Okay.
Yes, things like that.
Or they had been drinking a few too many drinks. That's why
yes.
you see those big yellow
yes.
cement poles in front of some places to keep you safe.
That's
you're going to hit that first.
Why they're put there. Yes.
Because the glass is so valuable. We're going to put a not so attractive yellow pole in front of it. Or
there's a lot. That's one type of customer. We've had some customers that they need to be secure when they close, and they're having issues with their hardware. So we'll come and try to at least get them through securing their building for the evening. Not all hardware is not always available, so it's improvising and coming up with a solution on how to keep their building secure until there is a solution or the hardware is available. Customers, there's like so many. There have been customers where, you're high up on the 18th floor and a window breaks out and they don't know what to do. And just think about it, like if you can't get the glass out from the inside, you have to go from the outside and you're on the 18th floor.
wow.
Like I have guys that are like so brave where they will go over the side of the building on a chair like you see window washers in, and you'll go down to the broken glass and pull it out just from sitting on a little swing, basically.
Right? I've seen these guys.
And fix that for a customer. To have the, motivation and, desire to help a customer so much, I just think that's a big deal.
Well, and you've touched on a
Shows
lot.
how far we go for customers.
Yeah, well, and it's just there's so much more that goes on with businesses than most people realize when you really get into the
Behind
depth,
the scenes
type of stuff. But I'm like, wow, then you have union labor also,
I do.
so that you have people that obviously they're highly
Glazers,
skilled, highly
local
trained,
factory team. Yes.
and that's important too.
Yep.
And that reminds me of another part of our discussion we had in the pregame prep in the green room. The green room is also this room, but I can put a green wall up and then it becomes a green room. We don't do that, but that's what we love, our diversity with our TV wall here. And so we talked a little bit about when you took over in an industry with mostly dominated with men, I guess, do a lot of the heavy lifting and stuff.
They do.
And so as a female business owner, talk about that.
It was a challenge.
What's that like?
It was a challenge.
And some of the hurdles, and somebody's, and she's going to tell us what to do.
This girl is going to be the boss. Be
Right?
the boss.
Tell me about that.
So it was interesting at first, but like I had told you before, the guys that are in the field, the glazers, are just amazing. They're just a great group of people, and even just outside of work, I would just enjoy being around them. They're just super people. They're family oriented. They're invested, in themselves and in their families, and they're invested in Service Central Glass and Door too. They love being there, and they want to see it succeed. So it's like every day they just put so much effort into it, and that means so much to me. It really is, not just for me, but just for all of us, because we're a team. I look at it as a team. I could not do it I alone.
Sure.
I'm only as good as my people, and I have great people. And I can never say enough about it. And I feel so fortunate to be in that situation, because I know a lot of people are struggling to find great staff, because without that, it's tough to run your business. Really tough.
It's impossible.
I just couldn't imagine it. It would be so much more difficult than it already is, just with your normal business challenges.
Oh, absolutely. I've run into an issue where I just tell how it is, everybody. I'm really good at some technology stuff. That's what I'm good at. I'm not good at a whole lot of other stuff. But my hurdle is always finding other people that can keep up with the technology side of it. And do you have to deal with that on the business side a little bit? So we need the network, we need the computer, we got to deal with, what are some of the technology things that you run into?
Just computers and apps and programs, and it makes the transfer of, or like communication and transfer of information so much faster, and we can just be more efficient that way in just our jobs. Because think about it, like if you call me and you're like, I have this storefront and I need to get it, I have this tenant that's moving in, but they require me to have like an all new storefront and new door with this hardware, and you're panicked because you're like, I really need to get this tenant in. And you call me and you're like, I don't even know anything about this. And so we have to be up to speed on what types of technology with hardware and whatnot is out there. But when you call me for that, I have to go out and I have to look at it. I have to see it. We have to see what's going on. We have to take measurements. We have to get an idea of what you want. So that information that we gather from that site visit is key to how the job is set up. Like if you sell us this job, it's key to how successful it is as it goes through the steps of to install. So we have certain apps and just programs to make that transfer of data instead of just like on a piece of paper. We have an app that we put all of our information to. We can load pictures in, we can write up our scope of work for this particular project, and anybody in our company can look at it. And it makes our lives so much easier, which is just communication and data transfer.
So essentially, are you giving somebody a virtual reality thing? That can they see what this might look like with certain glass?
Right, like we can load pictures in, we can put we can download plans into, like if you have a set of plans, I can download it into that. So any person that would go out to the job for install, they can look back on plans and information and sizes and orders and just different things.
Okay, yeah, I mean.
So we are a little more like technology based.
Sure. Well, you can't survive
with
these.
glass.
Yeah. If we talked about that a little bit during the show, especially before, it's a matter of you cannot survive without technology.
No.
My parents, fortunate, made me go to computer classes during the summer when I was playing baseball. I loved the baseball. I didn't like the computer classes so much. But it put me on that path, and it's like, just in case the baseball career doesn't work
out, I got computers.
I got a backup plan. I know a lot of guys who didn't have that kind of backup plan, and now they're doing whatever, but I played ball with and made it to the big leagues. I was better than some of them. But, yeah, fun. But I mean, you've got to have this technology thing understood.
I actually have a retired baseball player that works with me.
Really? Mm-hmm. Okay. Are you allowed to say his name?
I don't know. Do you think I'm allowed to say his name?
He's fine.
Steve Collier. He played for the Dodgers.
Yes. Okay. I think Manny.
I couldn't tell you the years he played, but he was young.
The Dodgers. Where are they?
He's still young.
Are they out of Peoria? Where are they out of Springfield?
LA.
Oh, Los Angeles.
Yeah,
I'm just
big
joking.
time.
Yeah, I was saying, you understand what we're talking about. This is the Los Angeles Dodgers.
He does have a nickname.
And what's his name?
Big League Steve.
Big League Steve. Are they mocking him while they say that?
Don't tell him.
A little bit. I mean, that's fun. Call him.
No, it's a compliment. But that's what they call him.
Because I mean,
his nickname.
well, back to I don't worry
on the job. You know.
Big League Steve.
Yes.
It's fun, but it's cool. At the same time, I don't care so much what people say about all the fun that they want to have about whatever.
We have a lot of fun.
Let's get the job done, and then as we
Yes.
get to know each other,
Have fun together.
That's right. Talk about
Yes.
the important part. And that went back to the respect thing I wanted to touch on a little bit again. That is so critical. We don't really talk about that enough on our show here, because I think, we had another guest on recently that just talked about it, and he says, this is the owner, Rick Otter, the president has taken over the ownership of the president position a number of years ago from the founder of Coach House Garages. So shout out to you guys. But he said, why do you have to give respect? Well, because you don't get respect unless you give respect.
Yes.
Here's a little tip for life, and this is true for anything, I would say. But why, especially as a female owner of a company, they're coming in and say, you obviously had to gain their respect
Yes,
by
I
giving
did.
them respect, and then
Yes.
talk about how that worked and why you think,
Now,
think that
some of
worked out
them
for you.
I had worked with before, very closely. There were a handful. And then some of them, they were working in another division of the company we were working for. So I had a little bit of experience working with them, but very little. But I knew them just from being around and working for the same company. So the few that I worked with for about the 5 years I was with the previous company, we had already established that. However, I wasn't really their boss then. I was like their manager. So it's like a little bit different. So now, I'm the owner. So it's a little different. Now I'm like the boss.
Yeah.
They actually call me mom sometimes. I'm like, really, guys? Mom, could you come up with something a little better? Like, well, you take care of us.
Okay.
I'm like,
I get it
okay,
now.
it's
All
a
right.
compliment, I guess, Anyway, but as things, evolved and things progressed, and I would hire on, and, the guys that I have right now, they just sort of came to me, and all of them have been like an amazing addition to the team. And, but it was how I presented myself to the crew. And I'm the first one that'll say, I don't know, and I don't know the best answer, but I'm willing to ask for help, ask their opinion, and I value their opinion. But they earn that too because of my trust in them and their skill levels, but I recognize that in them. And then that developed trust in me as well because I do value their opinion. And I rely on them big time. If it weren't for my people, there wouldn't be a company.
Leads to another important question off the script, because I've got a lot of questions. I write them down because I want to make sure these questions all come out and these answers, because it helps us to really get you. If I don't cover them, if I don't have this outlined, we had another client come in recently. They went to another very large radio station. I won't say the name, but they said it was kind of disorganized. They didn't have an outline, and so after we did get our recording of it, they had nothing to figure out how to decipher what they talked about, because it was all one big run-on of whatever. And I don't even know the name or anything, but it's just like, we got to stay organized. You got to report on what you're talking about, to be on the ball, talk about it. And with that, the question I have for you is, where do you think you learned these skills? Because now I'm kind of like going, this young lady is on the ball.
Thank you.
You weren't, obviously, we knew that coming in here. You wouldn't be here, obviously. We'll share the story from anybody, because I think everybody's got something to contribute, which goes back to, I don't get too worked up about any particular issue. We're all just trying to find a way to make it.
Yes.
And some people have this approach, and some people have that approach, and they say from the left or from the right or from up or down. Doesn't matter. Let's just do what's right to help people, and generally it all works out. But as I talk to you, share with us, if you will, and as I'm putting you on the spot here, where do you think you got this background so you understood these things, so you could jump into a position at
I know.
your young age, just getting...
Sometimes I ask myself that
You're in your early
question.
20s, it appears, but maybe you're a little older than
Ooh, I
that.
wish. Thank you.
But how did you pull this off? Where did you learn this from?
Well, a lot of it is learned. However, I naturally pick up on details, and it's sort of innate. I think that's just part of my personality, naturally. Just paying attention to details and just picking up on behaviors and body language and just different things. Like I've always been able to, how they say, pick up on something very easily. So like I watch you do something, then it gives me ideas, or I pay attention to what you're doing or how it goes together. And I think that's why I'm drawn to building things or fixing things. I'm just drawn to how things come together and how things work. And that's just like with people too. So I just pay attention to, just their demeanor too. Like when someone comes in, like even this morning, I was like, Jimmy, is Adam crabby? He seems kind of crabby. He goes, yeah, he's a little crabby today. I was like, okay. I kind of got that because I was across the room and I could see just how he's walking. He seems a little crabby. It's like, okay, well, maybe he's having a bad day or something.
Yeah,
maybe he's tired.
Something happened, yeah.
Something, whatever.
Didn't sleep well.
So it's just, that's one
Dog.
little example of just paying attention to people and just their demeanors. And, like, hey, is everything okay? Are you good? You got anything to talk about? Are you frustrated with work or frustrated with home stuff? Like, should we just like hash this out real quick? And sometimes it totally changes their day. And your day, how it could turn out.
Well, you've heard the analogy probably too. No one cares about what you have to say until they know how much you care.
Yes. Really, all it matters is that they know you care. And that really goes a long way. And I honestly do. It's not like I don't just like make that up. Like to be genuine, you really have to care. And I really do care about like my employees and my customers, and just in general, I care. I can't not help that. It's just kind of natural.
Now you hit me with it. I got two questions. I hope I don't forget them here as we go here. But the one that pops to mind is, where does this innate nature that you have come from? How do we help other? The reason I ask this: how do we help other people learn this? Some people say that you get into the discussion of nature versus nurture, right? Were you born this way, or was it learned?
Both.
And it's got to be, it's always both. But
personality
it's like,
and my parents, I have amazing parents.
Okay.
And, we grew up with not a lot, but I think that was great. My dad was a small business owner. He had a trucking business, and he had just a few trucks, but he had staff and whatnot. And, the economy hit a certain point and he lost some contracts and he lost his business. So we went through, as kids or children, we went through a pretty rough little patch there where money was super tight, and we had to just make things work, and we did. But my parents, no matter what, always love us and care about us, and they taught us that. And they also taught us to care about people and be respectful of other people. Teachers, police officers, your elders, people older than you, no matter what, it doesn't matter if they are your elders or if it's, an aunt or a friend's aunt or whoever, you have respect for them.
Ladies and gentlemen, I wonder if maybe my dad would make another joke. I think we doubled our knowledge here today. I had a fair amount of knowledge coming in, but I probably...
I hope I'm not too boring or anything.
No, you're hitting deep, important things. I run into people in the community all the time who identify me, and sometimes now they identify me without my hat on, and they'll stop me. I was at visiting with Manny. We went to his church on Sunday, and the guy sitting behind us goes, "Cowboy," I'm going to put this up as I put my title on there. He goes, "Cowboy, I watch your show. You do good work." And I'm like, good. That's what I need to hear that. I want to hear that because we're trying to highlight. We want to make a difference. We're trying to put out there the stuff, and we do it in an hour format instead of a 30-second clip or whatever. The next question he asked me, he goes, "Who selects all your guests?" And I was like, then he's talking about the Cowboy and Judd show, because I think in this show too, but he goes, "Who?" I go, "You're looking at them, right? And it's mostly me." and essentially, I mean, the Judge also brought on a lot of guests, and it got to where he was bringing on more. But that's part of why the Judge brought me on, because I've been running around St. Louis so often. I know so many people in the community, and we want to bring those people in and highlight them too. Smash, Anthony Bonner, Kerry Robinson. He brought on Jay Ashcroft, but I knew Jay, and Wesley Bell he brought on. I mean, these are great leaders, and we need to put these people out there because they share so much to help other people. And that was point to my
so much experience.
Right, the original question: how do you learn this stuff?
I know. Experiences, and being willing to say I was wrong, making mistakes, but knowing what to do next time, and just like really being bold enough and humble enough to look into like, yeah, I messed up. I did something wrong. I shouldn't have done this. This is how I should have done it. Next time I'm doing it this way. And you evolve that way and learn. So, some people, it's like, yes, it's really easy to get really bummed out about maybe something didn't go your way or something that happened that you can't control. if you look at it in a positive note of what can I learn from this? What did I do wrong this time? Or, what mistakes did we make? And I feel like that's value in business, personal life. However, it's like, what mistake did I make with that person? What mistake did I make in that relationship, whatever type of relationship it is? What did I do wrong? And what did I do right? What was positive? What was negative? What am I going to do different next time? How am I going to handle it differently?
Well, you're hitting on a couple big ones there for me, and that was a matter of, I look for. I was talking to another recent memory with Manny. I was talking to a gentleman, and he goes, I go, man, I don't fear mistakes. That's where I learn the most.
You learn the most, you really do. It's
Right?
hard to go through them because you're like, I'm letting somebody down, or I'm disappointing someone. You might, but you can counteract that disappointment by being a problem solver and coming up with a solution. Just be honest with that. You know what? I failed in this, but this is how I'm going to fix it. And just be honest with them and transparent. And that goes a long way with customers and just people in general.
I'll add another side note, because a couple different directions I go with that one. But I'll never forget the first day I started at Anheuser-Busch. I'm 25 years old. About to have I just finished my master's degree, so I'm supposed to be all equipped and ready to go, and got my master's degree. And I'm like, this is the big time.
That is pretty big
You're
time.
in Anheuser-Busch. And I was just answering phones. I don't diminish, but I was just answering phones.
You got the in.
I got in, and I
Yeah.
moved up quickly to the operations team, and I was building the corporate email systems. But part of what I took the time to learn and teach myself on the side in my parents' basement or in my new house, where I got an ADSL line, a static IP, and weird stuff you do. But these are the kinds of things I think people need to understand you do.
Yeah,
And
that's the difference between just going to your job and to making a career.
And absolutely, and that's what we want people like yourself to talk about.
Taking the
Back up what I'm
time, your
saying.
own time to make yourself better, educate, learn, read, and be willing to do that on your own time to make yourself better. And that's how you make a career.
Always improving. And if you study Microsoft,
Always.
I use the example with Microsoft, for example. Version 1. Did they stop at version 1? No. They got the
I
version.
can't even keep up with all the versions.
Well, they get to where they don't even market as version 1, but they finally got a different marketing strategy, if you will, when they said version 1, version 2, version 3.11. I'll never forget. I bought my computer in 1994, but it came with a free upgrade to Windows 95. What was Windows 95? Version 4. They just didn't call it that.
My computer, the company that handles my computers, because I can operate them, but when it comes to making sure they're working properly, it's a different deal. And they're like, oh, you're going to need a new computer. You're way out of date. You only have whatever. And I'm like, well, what does that mean? And they're like, you're like 5 versions old.
Your operating system is no longer supported.
Your computer's not even going to support the new version. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Well, that goes back to
It's still working.
a couple of those important points that you were helping me to exemplify here, that you're bringing it out, man. You're so successful because you've been through this. And one was, if you make a mistake, fix it. Another famous quote I've heard is, you give people half a chance, they'll screw it up. It's just, we're humans, right? And they're trying, they're distracted, they've got whatever going on.
Yes.
But if you give them another half a chance, they'll make it right.
Yes.
They'll fix it. And it's worth it then, because do you start over somewhere else with somebody else, and there's a 50-50 chance that they're going to mess it up, so now you got another messed up situation you got to go on to? Or do you let them fix it? Because if they fix it, now it's done. Everybody's happy. It just took a little bit extra to do that.
Yep.
And that's just kind of the way I got my joke
But
about.
we got the job done.
Right. And my joke about humans is that God brought us here for his entertainment. Right? He needs something more exciting than stars exploding and nebulas and what. Even
Humans are way more interesting.
Yeah, the dinosaurs are even too boring for him. Or our higher power. How do you
However.
say? Yeah,
Yes.
whatever. So I mean, we're here for a reason, and it's to help people. If you ultimately help people, your success is almost guaranteed.
Yes.
And that's where I get to my last point there. You're about to say something, so don't forget what
That's
you're
okay.
about to say. I always say, don't forget what you're about to think of, because I want you to talk about it. But is that I almost look forward to when I don't like, I hope this fails. But it's like when something fails, then I immediately go, cool, I'm going to learn something from this. It's going to turn me in a direction. It's going to bring me out something better. It's going to teach me something I didn't know.
Yes.
And that's where I talk about, and I gave a speech years ago at an organization that would be the keynote speaker. And I said, I am not the smartest guy on the planet, but I am smart enough to know that if I try something, I will go at it 10 times Where the
Until you
smart,
get it right.
the smart person didn't even try yet. They might get it right the first time because they're smart, but what don't they know? They don't know the 9 things I tried that caused it to
That
fail.
didn't work.
And so I know the 9
and you
things.
can apply that to a lot of different situations.
How important do you think that is in running a business?
Very important. Extremely important.
It's like critical to
The
the success.
failures can tell you just as much information, sometimes if not more, than the successes.
So the key to this is do not, ladies and gentlemen,
Don't be
do
scared to
not,
fail.
never ever do this. Okay, never ever do this. Ready for what it is? Never do this. Never be afraid to fail.
Correct.
It's kind of an oxymoron, is that? Never ever do this. Never ever be afraid to fail, because it will lead to. I mean, if everybody quit the first time they failed, no one would be in business.
Man, like, there's some mornings where I'm like, oh my gosh, and I just tell myself, you know what? Suck it up, and just get your butt out of bed, and put your shoes on and get to work.
And it's going to lead to your happiness, because then as you lay around in misery,
Lay around and
been
what is that
there.
going to do?
A lot of people do know about bring it up periodically, and I try to just sharing again. I was in a coma. All right, I was lucky to be alive. Then when I survived, I'm like, my whole dream of being a professional baseball player was just smashed. Guys I stood next to as the all-star. There's Brian Rupp. Here's Morgan Burkhart. I was better than one of those two. I won't let you know, in my opinion. People tell me, but I was the MVP of the best. We won the whole division, and I was the MVP of that team. This guy ended up winning the MVP for the whole team, for the whole league. Brian Rupp got stuck behind Scott Rowland, who just got put in the Hall of Fame, and then he out hit Derek Jeter in A-ball. And here I am coming out of a coma, going, "What the heck just happened to me?" And I could have spent the entire rest of my life frustrated about that.
Yeah, the biggest
And
choice
I woke up one day and
you
said, "I'm
have-
going to do something now."
Yeah, the biggest choice you have is how you're going to spend your day. Because you do have that choice of how it's going to go for you. Are you going to be in a good mood? Or are you going to be in a bad mood? Are you going to enjoy what you're doing no matter what it is? Or are you not going to enjoy it? You have that choice, and that's what the great freedom is.
The great freedom.
You make it what you want.
You make it what you want. Ladies and gentlemen, we're well into our second. We're going to start our third show now. We've got enough time here to start a third show. We're not going to do that, but I don't, because I want to do that to you. But we got to finish up here. I've got another. So do you. I think you got more important things than sitting here with me.
This is very important.
This is good. Well, I think it does ultimately share a lot with people, so they can have this insight. And where else do you learn these things other than hard knocks, doing it yourself, or hopefully you had some leader? And it's almost like I want to tell everybody what to do, but until they experience it themselves, it doesn't stick
I
in
was
their
just
head.
going to say, this is all personal experience. There's no research out there that you can find, except for it's my own personal experience.
And somebody who's leading the way as a young lady running a company with how many employees?
19.
19 employees, and I would say, I'm not giving you numbers, but I'm saying millions of dollars in annual revenue, if not multi-millions of dollars in annual revenue.
We have, we run through a little cash here.
Well, you told me about some of the jobs you do. They're
Yeah.
$50,000, $100,000 or more.
Yeah.
You got to do a couple of those, and you're at $1 million, and then a few of those, and then everything else in between. But just another exemplary example of somebody who's a leader in our community that's making a difference and took the time to come on our show. Thank you for doing that. I have one more question I want to make sure I get through here.
Okay.
And that is, tell me the process when somebody wants to get started with you. Because I want that to be very clear. A lot of people say, well, go to our website. But a little bit more than that, after they go to the website, after they call you, what happens?
You can go to the website, but that'll give you our contact information and, information about us, where we're located and whatnot. But a phone call, a conversation is where it all starts. You call in, you'll talk to, I don't know, there's a few people that may answer our phone: Jenna, Amy, Jim, Jimmy, Jessica. We answer the phone, and then we will ask you what your needs are. What are you looking for? What is it you're seeking? Sometimes some people call it and there's nothing that we can help them with, but we might give you a suggestion on where to go. But then we just ask you some questions. What are your needs? What do you got going on? How can we help you? And we'll gather your name, contact information, maybe some photos of what is existing, or if it's a new project, maybe your plans, construction plans, architectural plans, and email us. And email us any information that you can on whatever project thing you might have for us to look at. We'll look at it, have a few more conversations. We might have to come out and do a site visit and take a look at the existing building or the existing structure and ask you some questions. See what you want. What colors do you want? What type of glass do you want? What type of door do you want? What type of hardware are you looking for? And really get to know the project and you, and then kind of go from there. And then we put a quote together for you. We'll send it over. We can talk about that, what it all includes, and talk about the price, why it is the price that it is, because we'll go through all of that. And then we go from there.
Sure, a lot of people do. And I say that might fall underneath the category of, tell me, I want to give you a couple more, because I was like, we've gone so long here, but I got to throw in a couple of my other important questions, because I'm like chomping at the bit to hear your answer. This young lady has so many good answers and solutions for.
I feel so special.
Well, I mean, you literally. I don't like to make anything over more than it is, but you do. I mean, who else? There's very few people in that position where you're at. I don't know how old you are. I'm not going to ask you your age, but I mean, literally running a company, and it doesn't matter your age. You can tell the insight and professionalism, and that's why it's like, where did you learn all this from? We don't normally ask that question, but it's life and good guidance as a kid.
Experiences, good guidance, being just mindfulness also.
Yeah, and being attentive and learning.
Open
and
mind.
Being willing to listen. And
being willing to listen, being willing to learn.
Okay.
I'm not, I don't know everything. I never go
I'm
into
beginning to wonder. Maybe you do know everything. No, nobody
Maybe a
knows
little
everything.
bit.
The guy who claims to know everything, you know for sure they
Yeah.
really want to stay away from, because
Yeah.
they obviously don't know everything. It's impossible. The biggest challenge you've had to overcome when you say you're running a business anywhere in life, you would say the biggest hurdle you had to overcome.
I would say
and then how you overcame it.
probably opinions.
Ooh, I want to.
Like-
Now we're going to go another hour, everybody.
First, in the beginning of the start of my company, just opinions.
Give me some more depth with that. I think I know where you're going, but I want people to understand. What do you mean by opinions? Your opinion? What are you talking about?
No, opinions of others.
Right.
It's just, they looked at me as it just being odd. Like, this is just odd. Like, why is this female wanting to, have this glazing company? And I'm like, well, it just kind of happened. Like, here I am, just happened.
Yeah.
It literally just happened.
How many times did you have people tell you, or you felt as though there might be some, well, this isn't going to work. She's not going to succeed.
Yes.
Did you deal with that a little bit?
Maybe
not
I
directly,
think a lot
but you-
behind my back a
Yeah, I
little
was gonna say,
bit, or
it's
just
like
like
you can
conversation.
feel
You
it,
can
right?
feel it.
Yeah.
Like, you can feel it just in tone of voice or where the conversation is going. And I don't like taking no for an answer. Not in a bad way. Just I see it as a challenge.
Yeah. Tell me something I can't do. I will prove to you that I can do it.
I can't do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that leads me to what was it? What was the question?
The challenge.
Recite your favorite quote from your favorite movie.
Okay, you want
Guess
to tell?
what it is?
Tell me that one. Yeah,
Do you recognize "No one puts baby in the corner"?
Yes, I've heard that one for sure.
A few people may have heard that.
What does that one mean to you? Remind, what movie was that from?
Dirty Dancing with Patrick Swayze.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me why did that one mean so much to you?
Because I feel like a lot of just encounters, just over my years, a lot of encounters as most people either wanted to see me fail in whatever it might be that I'm doing, or thought I would fail. And not saying that I haven't failed at things, I mean, come on. But just overall, as a person succeeding in life. And I feel like, I don't know why, but just, in certain areas like this, like running a union glazing company, there's no way this girl is going to be able to do this, And, but it's like having the positive attitude and the mindset, like, this will work, I will make it work, but being the one behind it to push it to work and figuring out how to make it work.
We got some deep stuff here that's making me just pumped up about life, and I hope the audience is getting
It's
the same.
exciting.
It's cool to have people that are willing to share this kind of feedback so that you can understand, because it seems to me most times the human nature, and I don't blame anybody for this is more the human nature, is to figure out, I just can't do that.
And you can't control.
It's not gonna work.
You can't control what people do to you or what decisions they make. Like, once you learn that, it's like really free. That's like relieving. Like,
Yeah, empowering.
Empowering. There you go. I can't control what this other person does, but many times their decisions will affect you directly. And I have been in those situations where it was very scary. Like, I don't know what's going to happen to me because of decisions that somebody else made.
Tell me if you agree.
And-
Go ahead.
That's okay, go.
No, I'm cutting off her gas because I don't want to ever do that. But that to me is like, I don't know how many times I've come out of a meeting, I've come out of an interview, and I'm like, I wonder what they think is going to happen next. I wonder what's going to happen. Because I've proposed things, here's what we got going on. And then you may not even hear back for a little while, and you're like, why didn't they call me? Whatever. And again, you can't control that.
You can't
All
control
you
it.
can control is what you're going to do to make it better, to get the next thing done.
Right now.
And if somebody's, to me, it's a matter of if somebody's going to hesitate to whether they're going to work with me. Number one, it's probably they're too busy. It's usually, it's very rarely somebody's actually like, well, we didn't want to do what he was saying because he's proven a track record that's successful and done something. We don't want that. We do,
Yeah.
but they think about it and it's like capitulate and it's like, let's move.
Yeah.
Getting things done, even if it doesn't work out, it moved us forward because we learned something.
Right.
And I can't wait for them. I'm like, I'm moving on. And I got other people that do want to conquer the world with me. And so I'm going to go find those people, and those are what you have to focus on.
Yeah, and that's the thing with selling too. Like, you can't expect to put out, 20 quotes for jobs and expect to get all 20.
Yeah.
You might get one or two from 20 quotes that you send out.
Wow.
So, like, throughout the process, you have to be willing to not be awarded projects, but you have to be able to generate enough possibilities that you do win some of the projects. So, like, if I put out 100 quotes, I might get 30%. And that's actually a decent, rate. Getting 30% of the, opportunities.
Now you're hitting right on some baseball themes, and that is, do you follow baseball closely a little bit? You a big Cardinal fan?
I try to. I love the Cardinals.
Okay. And did you know you are considered one of the most successful baseball players in the world if you can just average, what percent did you just say?
30%.
30%. So people say, you know what a 300 hitter is, everybody? That's 30%. They're just saying it's a .30, and they just to make it look whatever cooler.
It's about 100 pitches they hit.
Yeah, at bats, and so out of
At bats.
100 at bats,
Only
only 3 are they going to get a hit. Yeah, they're going to face a lot of pitches, and that's another good point to make because they're coming at me with this.
Bats and pitches.
Literally, yeah. There's literally this pitch, like, hey, I want you to do this. Hey, I want you to do that. Well, the at bat's not over until they say no, right? Or yes, and so you continue to pitch them. Throwing the curveballs. Hopefully, don't throw too many curveballs to people. I guess it's a matter how you interpret that. But anyway,
Sure.
we're learning on the
Get
fly.
a lot of curveballs.
But there's a curveball coming at you, for say, and you're going, how do I adjust to this? Because you didn't see it, and they weren't deliberately trying to throw you a curveball. Life happens. Businesses have functions
Lots
that
of
go
curveballs.
weird, and you got to go back, and somebody didn't do something they didn't realize because of solar flares. I'm afraid a guy that was one of our support guys when I first started, he would tell people the solar flares were causing problems. And then I would get them off the phone with him so he could go back to reading or whatever. They fired him. But yeah, I mean, don't come up with a bogus answer. Give me a real answer. Work at this. Give me a real pitch. And then one of these pitches I might decide to swing at. And then we can do business together. Making new analogies about how to portray the way the world works as related to baseball. But 30%, I'm like, wow, that's 7 people that said no, but that's 3 that said yes. It's a numbers game. Most people understand sales.
numbers game.
Marketing. It's a numbers
game.
If you don't pitch, if you don't get out there and do it, you're going to get nothing.
Same way with websites and social media, like this day and age, you have to be out there.
See what we're talking about here,
Everybody
ladies
goes to Google. Everyone, searches and looks for information.
and that's the point of this show, everybody, because we're going to give Jessica a copy of it. Now we're up to 1 hour and 13 minutes, so I apologize.
But that seems like 5 minutes.
Yes, doesn't go fast when you're
It
having
really
fun.
does.
And it's just so much good information, I think, that we get to share here because we're talking about it. We're taking the time. We're doing the effort. You're spending your time here to do this, and it really helps people to understand it's just not as hard as you think. You just got to go out and do something.
You just have to do it.
And then stick with it and follow through and make sure it gets done. Good summary there.
Follow through.
The final question is, what is it that gives you the most satisfaction about what you do?
I just like happy customers, happy people.
Because I'm happy. Go ahead. Is that it?
Pleased and, and success with that.
Yeah.
So.
It's that satisfaction. It's not so much our people, they're just all about the money. Nah, most of us are
it
really
makes it all worthwhile because that just goes a lot further. Because again, even with all social media and Google and everything else, word of mouth is still very important.
There you go. And that's why with this TV show, I believe, helps businesses to get the word out about themselves because it's hard to give this speech to everybody. But if we record it and we give you a copy, you can
can
say,
watch it.
go watch it. And I'll give a little shout out about how this has worked for some of our guests. We give them a copy, they put it on their website, and they say, Carter, people call me. One guy, it's on a video, you can watch it. Look for Isaac Abchinikov, just look for Isaac from Shield Exteriors, now Shield Siding. Google search that. Isaac, Shield Exciting, Your Little Castle review, and he says, I made $500,000 off that video. Wow. I was like, whoa. Now, given he does siding jobs that are $40,000 on average each. Yeah. I used the low number when I ballparked it in my head. I'm like, wait a minute, because I said, let's record this since you're going. I was off the camera, but I got out my hand camera and carried. But hold on, let's record it. You can see that's what we did. And I put it out there for people. I'm like, this is the stuff people need. It's so valuable because it allows you to convey your message so they get to know you instead of a click, Facebook, post, internet, email, text. I want to know who the heck I'm dealing with.
Yeah. Yes.
I want to know a little bit about them. See what are they about? How do they function? How do they provide success? How do they help people? And they don't know that in 30 seconds. They need a little time for that. But we'll cut this thing up into clips. We're going to give you all the clips from it. Every question, every answer. It's a little extra time. Going to be done by my friend overseas that I've sent these to because I found somebody that would do it, and I send it to them at night, and it's done the next day. But we want to be efficient. We get things done, and those clips will help people then portray what you're doing. See, I don't want to watch an hour and 15 minutes, but I'll watch this and I'll watch that, and you'll put them up there and pop them up. So please do that with these as we give them to you. And
okay.
We want people to use what we're providing here because it will help your business. It'll help the world, and I think that's what this is all really about.
Agreed.
Is that enough? Did we cover enough there, everybody? Sometimes people tell me, Cowboy, you've got almost too information overload. But take it in chunks. We're going to send it out there in pieces and hopefully help you guys learn a little bit more what we're trying to do to help the world.
I hope someone does learn from it.
Absolutely. That's the whole point.
Take something away from it.
That's exactly what we do. All right, everybody, stay tuned for more. This is the Your Little Castle Show. Giddy up.